Welcome to episode 061 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's November 18th, 2024. Kodaks, that's me. I'm here. And today we're going to talk about some purchases that have come in this last week. I'm going to skip about what I've been playing because I've just been playing more Dragon Age, more Zenless Zone Zero. Don't really have any new thoughts to add to either of those two games right now. But I do have a little bit of an unboxing I want to do with you all. Last week, the remake of Dragon Quest III launched, and its official title is Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. So this is a from the ground up total reimagining of Dragon Quest III, still keeping the same traditional Dragon Quest gameplay, classes, that kind of a thing. Visually is like completely and massively overhauled, but still retains a pixelated art kind of look, but just in a 3D with depth of field, not seen in the original games. So I actually picked this game up on Switch and PlayStation 5. I had to have both. There's an Xbox copy as well. Kind of want to grab it for Xbox too. For Switch, I just got a standalone retail copy. For PS5, it is just a standalone retail copy, but mine came bundled with the Square Enix Store exclusive collector's edition, which included a huge set of acrylic standee figures, which are not really I'm not passionate about acrylic standees. They're these little hard plastic, clear plastic, with like printed on like characters and things on them. Some people collect them instead of like collecting like statues and figures. I've never really been passionate about them. I have a few that I've gotten from like different events over the years. But so this one has a whole set. It has like a bunch of the monsters. It has the big logo art. It has all the different playable characters and like the different classes and things like that they can. When I say classes, I don't mean like going to school. I mean like mage, warrior, hero, gadabout, cleric, sage, all those kinds of, fantasy classes. But what also came with this was this really neat box. I know I'm getting excited about a box, as I often do. But this is not just any box. It's shaped to look like an ancient tome that would be sitting on like an old bookshelf in a castle somewhere. And I'm going to unbox this now. It has like a film that you can reseal on the box, so it's not like going into the trash. Okay, so in the box, in addition to the special tome, there is a little info sheet that says it's for the PlayStation 5 version. It has basically every major language that the game supports, I'm guessing, for the US, the UK, Japan. It has all the caution and information and things like that, but it's primarily Japanese. I believe we got the same exact Japanese collector's edition, so which is cool. There's parity there at least. I will say this collector's edition is missing stuff like an art book, an original soundtrack CD collection that they often include. So it is kind of a weird bare bones. I wouldn't normally go for this kind of a collector's edition, but I do want to support Dragon Quest any way that I can. So, when they announced that they were putting out the same collector's edition as Japan, I jumped on it immediately. And it ended up selling out. I don't think they made very many copies available here in the US. So, oh wow, this is kind of, I almost don't want to open this. Yeah, the way they have the hinge on the spine of the book, I feel like it's going to cause damage to the book. Okay, because when you open it, creates a beautiful display case for your game. And not just this game, but also another game that's coming out next year, which would be Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake. So on one side, you slot in Dragon Quest 3. And then on the other side, you slot in Dragon Quest 1 and 2. And then it creates like a joined image together, which is just really, really cool. I absolutely love this box. This box is basically the reason why I bought this fancy edition. Yeah, I can tell though, with the way the spine is, it is going to cause damage over time to it by opening and reopening it. So I'm probably not going to be opening and reopening this very many times. This will probably be the one time I really get a good look at this, because I do not want to harm it any more than I already have just by opening it these 2 times. So yes, that's this really nice display box for Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD and Dragon Quest 3 HD. I will probably open it one more time just to see the full joined image, and then I will package it away and never open it again, because that's what you do when you're a weirdo like me. Okay, moving on. Last week I did talk about the Sega Genesis Classics collection with old Genesis and Mega Drive games being delisted from digital storefronts, and how, you know, whatever physical copies are out there are going to be the only physical copies still remaining out there. So as soon as the news dropped, I jumped on it immediately, and my PS4 copy of the game arrived. So Sega Genesis Classics, over 50 classic games, and there's a double-sided poster inside as well. I probably won't be opening this anytime soon. This is more of a posterity purchase for me. I just wanted to make sure that I did have this before I could no longer have this. You know, I grew up with the Sega Genesis. That was my first console we had at home. So meaningful one for me personally. I have an attachment to the brand for sure. Okay, one other purchase that came in this past week would be Slitterhead Day 1 Edition. So a little bit of information about Slitterhead. So this game is created by former Japan Studio. So a few years ago, Sony closed down Japan Studio, which was their in-house Japanese developer. They did games like Freedom Wars. They did games like, they worked on Bloodborne with From Software. They did the Gravity Rush games. They constantly, and they were also responsible originally for the team that worked on the Astrobot games, which now spun off into its own team known as Team Asobi. So this new team, they left Sony when Sony closed the studio, and they formed a new studio called Bokeh Game Studios. And this is their first release. It was a almost simultaneous worldwide release. I think Japan got it a couple days before we got it. But Xseed took over publishing duties for the game here in the West, and it only released physically on the PlayStation 5. I don't believe the game is on any other platform aside from PC. And there was no standard copy of the game. There was only this Day 1 edition of the game, which comes in a nice hard box, which encases a few cool items, such as the Day 1 exclusive outer box. Of course, the outer box is now part of the purchasing experience now. It used to just be that the box was the box, right? But now they know collectors want that cool box on the outside. It has the game itself for PlayStation 5. It has a 104-page full-color art book with commentary by creator Toyama, who's the same guy who created the Gravity Rush series as well. I've met him, so has Rick. We both met him a couple times at various events at E3 and PlayStation Experience. Great guy, also known for creating Silent Hill, the first game. Has an original soundtrack CD, and the soundtrack was done by Akira Yamaoka, who is also responsible for the music in the Silent Hill series. And it has a sticker sheet with game artwork and I believe some studio logos on it as well. So this game launched a week or two ago, and the reviews have not been great to it. The mainstream reviews, I should say. because this is very much so not a mainstream game. It's weird, it does different things, it's not meant to be consumed by everyone. This is the game that 10 years from now is going to be a cult game, and you won't be able to get copies of it anymore, and people are going to wish they had a copy of Slitterhead. I can almost guarantee it. I'm worried. I don't know how sales are for the game. People who actually play it seem to really enjoy it. But like I said, the reviews, people who were forced to play the game, for work, they did not seem to enjoy it. In fact, today some kind of controversy was sparked when IGN, who 2 weeks ago gave this game a 5 out of 10 review score, which, depending on how you look at reviews, a 5 could mean an F, or it could mean it's like, halfway to being a good game. I'm not really sure how you want to, look at that. I kind of look at it as like, well, for most people, a 5 is probably an F. And overall Metacritic for this game, it's in like the 60 percentile range, so not very high. But the controversy has to do with IGN posted a bad review about the game, right? Which, was normal. A lot of outlets posted a bad review. But then IGN also posted an article today saying that more studios need to make smaller games that do interesting things and, think outside the box and don't just do the mainstream expected things. And so Bokeh Studios' Twitter account retweeted or quote tweeted it saying like, hey, this is a really nice article. Why don't you go back and look at our game that you reviewed a 5 out of 10? And I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. And so it sparked a big conversation online about, like, is it right for developers to call out, reviewers? I mean, when I looked at their tweet, I thought it was just them kind of poking fun at it. And it is. It's kind of ironic. On one hand, IGN reviews the game really poorly for being weird and strange. And in the review on IGN, the reviewer says like a really mean thing, saying they wish they could go back in time and never have hit the start button to start the game, which is like, that's basically insulting to like a group of, I want to say there's 20 some odd people working at the studio, basically telling them, go F yourself, your game sucks, I wish I had never played it. I mean, that's pretty harsh, man, for a supposed professional reviewer. I don't know. So I think Bokeh pushing back on that review and that notion while, IGN is saying one thing and then doing another on the other hand, like, I don't know. I'm kind of here for it. I like to see that they're kind of pushing back a little bit. I mean, is it a good look? Probably not, because some people are interpreting it as like pathetic. Like, oh, Bokeh's asking them to, redo their review. How pathetic. I'll never play your game because of that. It's just really weird. So anyways, that's Slitterhead. I am going to play this game. I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't going to do an unboxing for this, but you know what? Let's do it. I'm ripping the wrap off right now. Okay. Alright, so my day one edition box, you could see where the person who opened the box from the manufacturer that had all the copies of these, clearly their box cutter sliced the front of my hardcover box a little bit, so that's a little disappointing if I'm not, I'm not gonna lie about that. So there's some interesting text written on the outside of the box, so maybe I should mention that real quick. So on one side, it says, nesting in the red light district, bodiless Hyoki exposes the demons. Okay, so the box is a little tough to open here, but I'm going to do that anyways. So first things you see is the PlayStation 5 copy of Slitterhead. It feels heavy inside there. There must be a manual or something too. Then we have the Slitterhead soundtrack CD. There's only 10 tracks, so don't get too excited. I think there's likely more tracks than we have here, but maybe there'll be like an official soundtrack release at some point. But still pretty cool that we're getting this to begin with. I gotta say, the art on the cover is some crazy body horror Giger-esque looking stuff. It's really creepy. Okay, then we've got the sticker sheet here, which has some of the protagonist characters, has the studio logo, it has a beer label for, I guess, a beer that must be within the game, and then the Slitterhead logo, and then some other artwork as well. And then, like I said, the last thing is this art book, which is cool. It actually has a little banner around it saying, hey, this contains spoilers, don't look at it. So I'm not going to seriously look at this very much, but it is a small soft cover art book, no ISBN number or anything like that inside of it. There is a foreword by Toyama, who's the creator of the game, but he did not actually direct the game. He worked with someone else to direct the game. I believe someone else who also came from Japan Studio. And yeah, there's clearly lots of cool artwork, designs, things I'm probably getting spoiled on here. But yeah, if you're into really messed up looking games, this one's probably for you. Check out Splitterhead, people. Okay, so that's enough about what I've been buying. Let's jump into the news. So Rolling Stone sat down for a chat with Xbox head honcho Phil Spencer. Phil is best known for this year his epic layoffs and studio closures at his recently acquired studios. Everyone loves Phil. Phil is primarily here to discuss the rebranding of Xbox as being more than just a box, but also he dropped some nuggets about the future of the Xbox business. So in their new This is an Xbox marketing campaign, Microsoft is attempting to convince the general public that your TV, your PC, your streaming device, your phone, they're all Xboxes, implying that through streaming and PC versions of Xbox game, everything you play on is an Xbox. This new marketing campaign comes on the heels of the news from earlier this year that Xbox games will be appearing on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch consoles as well. I'm somewhat surprised that they didn't try to show those consoles in their advertisements too, but maybe they didn't want to upset their now partners. Sales of their actual consoles, the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, are far behind the competition in PlayStation and Nintendo. A report from earlier this year says that PlayStation consoles are outselling Xbox 5-1, but Microsoft is playing a game of 3D chess here and hoping that their new strategy will put them on top in the long run. That strategy being put their stuff everywhere, basically becoming a third party that also still has their own home console. On one hand, diluting your brand could be seen as risky, but on the other, perhaps they are going about this correctly given their current position in the market. I know it's weird calling Microsoft the underdog here, but they're effectively the underdog out of the big three console and platform holders. Being the underdog allows you flexibility to get creative and try different things the market leader wouldn't attempt to risk their position. You know, PlayStation would be silly right now if they were to be like, hey, we're putting all our games on Xbox and all of our games on Nintendo. That would just ultimately be a mistake for them. I mean, maybe not. I feel like they're going to get pushed more and more that direction, and they already kind of are teasing that a little bit by putting their games on PC, by putting Lego Horizon on Nintendo Switch. You know, there's things like that are happening. So Phil talks about this new approach in the following quote. He says, I think the thing that should really have longevity are the games, characters, and world, and the platform should enable us to experience those games where we want to play. That's how we think about Xbox today. Our biggest growth in Xbox players is on PC and cloud. The console space isn't growing across all of them. We love those customers, but in terms of continuing to expand and grow Xbox, it's about PC, it's about cloud, and it's about making our games more available in more places. So he says that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Xbox is giving up on, well, making Xboxes. Phil said the following about new consoles. He says, we'll definitely do more consoles in the future, and other devices. When Phil's talking about other devices here, he's likely hinting at their endeavors to create a handheld Xbox console, similar to the Asus ROG Ally and Valve's Steam Deck. This isn't the first time we've heard him mention his ambitions to expand in that space, a space that PlayStation has effectively vacated, unless you count the PlayStation Portal, which in my opinion isn't really the same thing because nothing is being played natively on the Portal. It's a peripheral for your PlayStation 5 rather than an actual new PlayStation like console. So Phil was asked about a mid-generation refresh of the Xbox Series X and S, similar to how the PlayStation 5 Pro, which has just launched this last week, and here's what he said about that. We think about hardware that can create unique value for our players or creators on our platform. We don't need to do incremental hardware for our own benefit. Does a new device really give you a unique experience on screen in some way? It's less like the old days, going from the original Xbox to Xbox 360. That was standard definition to high definition. Now it's harder to show the benefits. So here he's basically coming down on Sony for creating the PlayStation 5 Pro. And while I don't necessarily disagree with what he's saying, because yeah, it is an incremental console for sure. There is no massive leap happening here with PlayStation 5 to PlayStation 5 Pro. But, and I say that as someone who's getting a PlayStation 5 Pro delivered later this week, the 30th anniversary one, but, a PlayStation 5 Pro nonetheless. So I do find it a bit humorous, given that in the last console generation, Xbox did have a mid-generation console release with the Xbox One X, which was effectively, the mid-generation point between Xbox One and Xbox Series X. So it's just it's a little bit of BS for him to say that we don't do that for our own benefit. No, Phil, you're doing it because no one would buy it, or the amount of people that would buy it would not make back the money that it would require you to invest in the R&D and manufacturing of that new console. So instead, he throws shade at the notion of a mid-generation console update by implying that Sony released the PS5 Pro for only their own benefit, which again, not necessarily a lie, but there is some benefit for the players there. You can't say that it's just like a nothing burger that you're selling to people. Obviously, it's an overpriced console, considering it lacks a disc drive and you have to add on all this extra stuff to make it, even compatible with your own physical collection. Something I'm having to deal with. But, anyways, Phil, when he says stuff like this, to me that says the console wars are alive and well. So, long live the console wars. Alright, so now we're going to switch gears to Pokemon. It's no secret that we love Pokemon here at the Bit Beacon Broadcast, and as we mentioned in our 25th episode earlier this year marks the 25th anniversary of the release of Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver in Japan, which was released on November 21st of 1999, so just a few days from now, or maybe the day you're listening to this. So it brings me great pleasure, but my wallet much sadness, to report that the Japanese Pokemon centers will be launching a special merchandise line to celebrate the 25th anniversary with various themed goods, throwing it back to a simpler time on our Game Boy and Game Boy Colors. So this merch line has some really awesome stuff, and I'm just going to mention a few of the items real quick here. So there are plush versions of Shiny Ho-Oh and Lugia, which look awesome. Don't really do plushes these days, but if I was, I'd be jumping on these. There is a Moo Moo Milk bottle style whiteout tape. So basically it's a whiteout tape dispenser, but it's like, you're spilling Moo Moo milk across your paper, and then it leaves a trail of whiteout. Really cool. So there's some temperature reacting mugs featuring encounters with the legendary beast, which show the protagonist entering the battle, and it's all dark, and then as the mug heats up, it reveals the battle with Entei, Raikou, or Suicune. There is a backpack from brand Outdoor Products featuring Pikachu pixel art and interior liner with the Pokemon party art. The little icons that look like Gengar and Geodude and Rhyhorn and stuff like that. So they're all kind of represented inside the liner of the backpack. I'm kind of thinking about this backpack a little bit right now. It looks pretty nice. Currently, I have this really cheap backpack I got on Amazon for $10. Not very great. Doesn't have a lot of options. So I'm curious about this backpack. So there are also pixel art bookends featuring Pikachu, Mr. Mime, Gengar, and Rhydon. That same party art that you see when you go to the party screen, so you can see your HP and who's fainted and who's poisoned and who's paralyzed. So you can look forward to those. And then there's also various stationery products such as Post-it notes, pens, notebooks, stickers. And these stickers come actually packaged inside of a reproduction Game Boy cartridge that opens up like a clamshell design style. There's a bunch more items, but there's two other pieces I want to highlight. Both of them are these amazing souvenir jackets known in Japan as Sugajan. They look pretty similar to like what a varsity jacket would look like. And the jackets come in two varieties, Ho-Oh Gold and Lugia Silver. Each jacket features both Lugia and Ho-Oh embroidered, the cover art from the game boxes themselves. So just the cover art of Lugia and the cover art of Ho-Oh embroidered on each, breast area of the jacket. And then on the back, depending on if you got the gold jacket or the silver jacket, there is a giant Lugia or giant Ho-Oh on the back of the jacket, also embroidered. These jackets are going to run for 22,000 yen. That's about 145 US dollars for a jacket. So that's the bad news. But the best part about these jackets is that they come packaged inside of giant reproduction gold and silver Game Boy game boxes. That's right. You can own massive, I don't know, what would the scale be? Probably 5 to 10 times, probably 5 or 6 times as large as an original Game Boy box. But they look glorious. There's a photo of them on the Japanese Pokemon Center Twitter account. The merchandise launches when? I believe Thursday morning in Japan at 10 a.m. So that's sometime Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening here in the States. So yeah, I want one of these jackets. I kind of want both of these jackets. The jackets are sick, but the boxes, man, I love boxes. I love Game Boy. I love Pokemon. It's like the perfect thing to get me to part with too much money that I don't really want to part with. But man, I think I'm going to get one of these jackets. It's going to suck because these aren't going to be sold in the US. More than likely, they're not going to be sold here. So that means I would have to have these shipped to a forwarding service, which would then charge extra fees to ship them to me here in the States. So it would be a pretty brutal. These jackets would end up being $200, maybe $175 each if I were to buy both and save on shipping by bundling them. But anyways, we're at 61 episodes. If Blue Chew wants to sponsor me for an advertisement to help me pay for these jackets, I'd be down. Hit me up, Blue Chew. Okay, so we're now at our last story, and this is kind of a big one. The Game Award nominees launched earlier today, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the nominations, all the categories, and I'm going to make my bold prediction for what game will win in which category. I do want to point out a couple things about the show before we jump into that. So this annual celebration of video game commercials and Jeff Keighley refreshing his coffers starts on December 12th at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles. The show this year is a week later than usual, which does have some enthusiasts questioning if there might be some other announcements coming the week prior from Sony given the 30th anniversary of PlayStation falling on that week. Maybe the two of them talked and Jeff was like, hey, I'll vacate that week so you can have that week. So yeah, pretty interesting. Show has always been that first week of December. Now it's going to be the second week of December. Curious to see how this shakes out, why maybe it happened. Do we have anything to look forward to that first week, or is it just our imaginations? Probably the latter. So tickets went on sale a couple weeks ago, and the prices range from $80 to $200 for seats to the biggest show in gaming. Though if you're patient, you can probably get tickets for free as a seat filler a week or so from now. I did inquire with the company that does the seat filler program, and they did tell me they would be doing seat fillers for the Game Awards again this year, but they would be launching the program to get those seat filler slots closer to the actual event of the show rather than far in advance like they have done in the past. So the nominations, let's start. Do we start at the most exciting ones or do we start from the bottom? So one thing I do want to say, I guess we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. One thing I do want to say is that I do not have any thoughts on the content creator of the year or any of the esports categories. I don't care about, who the best esport player was or who the best esport coach is or the best team is. It's just, I'm not interested. So we're going to start with most anticipated game. So most anticipated game specifically covers games that are announced but not yet released. So first we have Death Stranding 2 on the beach, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I think this one is an obvious pick. It's Grand Theft Auto 6, and it's not even close. By a country 1,000 miles, Grand Theft Auto 6 is the most anticipated game on planet Earth. And maybe the planet ever. So yeah, hands down, that one is winning that award. I'm locking it in. Next we have Best Adaptation. So this category specifically covers adaptations of video games in either the TV or movie space, basically. So we have Arcane, which is based off Riot's League of Legends franchise. We have Fallout TV show, which is obviously based off the Fallout series of games. And then we have Knuckles, part of the Sonic the Hedgehog, TV series, which is part of the movie universe. We have Like a Dragon Yakuza, which is on Amazon Prime. We have Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft, which is on Netflix, and I believe that's an animated show. So out of all of these, I think it's pretty obvious, at least to me, I'm going to lock it in. It's Fallout. That show was really big earlier this year when it first launched, and I think it stuck around and really resonated with people, and they're already working on season 2. And so I think, that's probably this year's best from the options that we have. I haven't heard, I know Arcane is really well liked as well. I think they got like a final season of that. Like a Dragon Yakuza, I haven't really heard people talking about it either positively or negatively. And then Knuckles, I did not hear the best stuff about that. I hear Knuckles is not really in it a whole lot. It's mostly humans. So a lot of people are kind of scratching their head with that show. Like, why did this need to be a TV series of like 10 episodes or 6 episodes, 8 episodes? So yeah, I don't think Knuckles has a chance. And the Tomb Raider show, I've heard it's a serviceable cartoon. It's part of, I believe, the newer games. I don't know if it's retelling one of the newer games or if it's set in the continuity of the newer games, but that's the Tomb Raider: Legend of Lara Croft. Okay, so our next category is Best Multiplayer Game. We got Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. Okay, so this one I think is going to be... It's either Call of Duty, Helldivers 2, or Warhammer 40,000. Don't think Tekken 8 has a chance. Don't think Super Mario Party Jamboree has a chance. I don't want to give it to Call of Duty. I know Warhammer 40,000 is really big right now. It's got a really big fan base. A lot of people enjoying that game. Helldivers 2 was bigger much earlier this year. Still retains a strong player base. But I just don't know if it has the energy that Warhammer 40,000 has going into this. So I think I'm going to say Warhammer 40,000 for this one. Maybe Helldivers, though. Man. Honestly, toss-up. But, yeah, I'm going to say Warhammer 40,000. No, Helldivers 2. Okay, I'm locking in Helldivers 2. Locked in for Best Multiplayer Game. Okay, Best Sports/Racing Game. I always found this weird that they combine racing games and sports games. I guess there's some overlap. But one's a physical sport. I shouldn't lie. I'm sure racing is very physical, no doubt. But it's just a different kind of sport. But I'm going to say, of the options, we got F1 24. So like Formula 1 2024. I guess they make a new one every year. EA Sports FC 25, FC being football club as in soccer, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, and WWE 2K24. first, I think it's pretty cool that there's a new tennis game this year. That's cool. I think it's been a while since there's been a new Topspin tennis game, so that's exciting. But I think, given the international nature of this show and that it's voted on by a worldwide group of outlets, I think EA Sports Football Club 25 probably wins here, so I'm going to lock that one in. Okay, so we have Best Sim/Strategy Game. So Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunutsigami Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. Age of Mythology Retold I heard was really good. I'm going to say Unicorn Overlord, though. Like, the pedigree of Vanillaware, I want to see them win a game award. I hope they win Best Sim/Strategy Game. Unicorn Overlord, locking it in, even if I'm not totally sure that one's going to be the winner there. Okay, next category is Best Family Game. So we've got Astrobot, we've got Princess Peach Showtime, we've got Super Mario Party Jamboree, we've got The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. I think this one's obvious. This is normally a category that Nintendo wins every year, but there's no way they are beating Astrobot this year. Although I do question a little bit if Astrobot is really a family game. I mean, it's obviously family friendly, but I don't know that this is a game you can give to a 5-year-old and expect them to beat it. There's some pretty challenging stuff going on in this game. But either way, I think Astrobot wins handily there. So lock an Astrobot in. Alright, Best Fighting Game. We have Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Multiversus, and Tekken 8. I think this competition is between Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising and Tekken 8, but at the end of the day, I'm going to lock in Tekken 8. It's Tekken, man. Okay, we have Best RPG. This is like, wow, this category is tough. Dragon's Dogma 2 from Capcom, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, that's from Software. So this is actually weird. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is a DLC/expansion to Elden Ring. It is not a standalone game. So it's a little bit of a head scratcher that a game that came out last year, who had DLC released this year, is nominated for Best RPG. And we're going to see Elden Ring pop up again in a little bit. I don't know. I think that's tough. Okay, so then we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. So I'm going to say Elden Ring gets this one. I feel like they're going to give it the award here, so they don't have to give it an award in one of the other categories it's nominated for. It's just a little criminal to me that this would be here. It's just, I don't really get it. Yeah, I don't really buy it being, I just don't think it's fair. I just really don't think it's fair. If they wanted, they could have released that as a standalone game. Then maybe I would have said, hey, totally fair game. But I just don't think it's fair to put DLC up against full brand new games. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I do think Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree wins there. If not, then it's either Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Metaphor ReFantazio from Atlus. But I'm going to say Elden Ring. I'm going to lock that one in. Okay, Best Action Adventure Game. This is another weird category because a lot of games here, kind of curious. Okay, they put Astrobot here, which I don't think is wrong, but not what I think of necessarily when I think of action adventure. Then they have Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. They have Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. So, I want to say initially I'm like, it's Astrobot. Astrobot should win in every category it's nominated for. And it's nominated for a lot of categories this year. But, well, I want to say it's Astrobot. I'm going to go against my gut, and I'm going to say it's going to be Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I think it's a game that's worthy. And Astrobot just feels a little out of place in action adventure. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna lock in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, but I would not be upset if I'm wrong and it's Astrobot. Okay, then we have Best Action Game, which is different from Action Adventure, of course. So we have Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. Okay, I think this is an easy one. It's Black Myth Wukong. Game was huge earlier this year. It did kind of fall off a cliff, I feel, in terms of like, when I say earlier this year, I only mean like 2 months ago, I think. But yeah, I don't think any of these other games have a chance against Wukong. So Black Myth Wukong, locking it in. Best augmented reality game. So we have Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellslinger, and Metro Awakening. I know nothing about any of these games, but I'm gonna just make a random guess and say it's Batman Arkham Shadow, locking him in with that win. Good luck, guys. Okay, best mobile game. AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. Okay, this one would be a lot harder of a category if the game Balatro wasn't in here. Balatro is this like massive, critical indie darling that has blown up massively this year, and they just recently had a mobile version of the game released. I don't know how I totally feel about like games that start out on one platform and release on another, like mobile being mobile games, but I'm gonna give it to them. I think they got the win here. I think they got the win in almost every category they're nominated for, which is several. Okay, now we have Best Debut Indie, speaking of another category. We got Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and The Plucky Squire. It's Balatro, just locking it in. Okay, Best Independent Game. Animal Well, Balatro, Loreline Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. Again, this is Balatro. It's just they win. Okay, Best Community Support. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, that's the MMO, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. So Best Community Support is kind of this weird, nebulous category where it's like, hey, how interactive and engaging are they with their fans, listening to feedback and that kind of thing. I want to say it could be No Man's Sky, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's Helldivers 2. I feel like they've really been listening to their fans and reacting to them and what they want and delivering on what they want. There was a big controversy earlier this year where Sony was making players sign into PlayStation Network on PC, which for PC players, for whatever reason, is like a real big deal, and they were real upset about it. And the people at Arrowhead Game Studios who make Helldivers 2 were basically able to convince Sony, like, hey, let's back off this. Let's give the players what they want. We didn't require this at first. We shouldn't require it now. Let's just give them Helldivers 2 without PlayStation Network integration if they don't want to do it. And so that's what happened. So I think Helldivers 2 maybe wins for that alone. I could see No Man's Sky coming out with a from the behind win. Baldur's Gate 3 maybe. Any of them. I hope not Fortnite. I just hope not Fortnite. Nothing against Fortnite. I just don't care about it. But yeah, I'm going to say Helldivers 2. Okay, best ongoing game. Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. This one's tough, man. I want to say Helldivers 2 again. Destiny 2 did have a really big expansion, but there's just been so much bad news at Bungie this year. Diablo 4 had a big expansion this year. I'm not sure that Final Fantasy 14 did. But yeah, I want to say Helldivers 2, but I wouldn't shock me if it was Destiny 2. It wouldn't shock me. But I'm going to lock in Helldivers 2. Okay, games for impact. These are games that maybe tackle various like world issues. They could be stories about like mental health, various things like that. So let's talk about these real quick. Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zao. Okay, this one, I'm not sure if it's Neva or if it's Hellblade 2, but I do believe it's one of those two games is going to win. I'm going to lock in Neva. Neva's from the indie studio that made the game Gris a couple years ago, which I believe won either Best Indie or Games for Impact a few years ago. So Neva's their new game, and I don't know, part of me just wants to see them win again. They deserve it. They make gorgeous, absolutely beautiful games. But I don't know, I could see Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 possibly winning there, but I think any of these games probably have a chance. Okay, innovation and accessibility. I'm going to start going through these a little bit because we're going a little long. This one's a tough one. I'm going to say it's either of the two Ubisoft games here. So we have Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, that's an Ubisoft one, or Star Wars Outlaws, that's an Ubisoft one. So when they talk about innovation and accessibility, they're talking about accessibility options for people who have like maybe hearing problems, vision problems, color blindness, basically enabling all kinds of extra modes to make it so that these people can enjoy the games even through with their disability. So honestly, a really cool thing to see more and more games tackling this issue, providing more options for players, because yeah, this shouldn't just be something for fully able people. I think it's pretty cool that games are becoming more accessible, especially through those really neat accessibility controllers that people like Microsoft and PlayStation have been developing. Okay, best performance. So Brianna White from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell from Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts from Silent Hill 2, and Melina Juergens from Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Okay, if I had to guess, it's a tie between Brianna White from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Melina Juergens from Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I believe Melina won in the original Hellblade game, so it would not shock me to see her take it home again. I believe she gives a very like emotional kind of performance. She's playing like a mentally distressed individual, so it's very intense and raw, and I feel like, I don't know, that stuff just kind of appeals more to the critics, the very gritty, dramatic stories. So best audio design, here we have Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. This is tough. This is a really tough one. This is the one I did not have a pick. I could see it being Silent Hill 2. That's a horror game. Sound design, audio design is really important in a game like that, which is also really important in Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I don't think wins this one. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, a lot of gun noises and weapons and stuff. I understand why they get nominated, but I don't think they win here. Astrobot, I don't think gets a win here. I think it maybe gets a win in music, but I don't know about sound audio design. Not that they didn't do a great job. It's just because they did. That game sounds amazing. But I do think maybe Silent Hill 2 takes this one. If not, it's Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. One of the two of those. But I'm going to lock in Silent Hill 2. Okay, best score and music. Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, Stellar Blade. I want to say it's Astrobot. I really want Astrobot to win. I don't know why, but I have a feeling it's going to go to Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm going to have to like begrudgingly lock in Metaphor ReFantazio, but I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it's Astrobot. Okay, best art direction. We're going to start hearing a lot of the same games pretty soon. So Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. Okay, I want Neva to win here. I think it would be really cool for Neva, an indie game, to take it in this category. Deservedly so. Not that these other games don't have incredible art direction, because they all do. Astrobot does, Wukong does, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. I do think Shadow of the Erdtree should not even be considered, so I don't want to see that one win. I wouldn't be upset if any of these games won, except for Elden Ring. That would just be like, come on. We already gave them all the awards 2 years, or 2 years, last year. We don't need to do that again. 2 years ago, actually. So yeah, I'm going to say Neva. I'm going to lock in Neva. I hope they win. But again, I'm not upset if Astrobot, Black Myth, or Metaphor wins either. Okay, best narrative. This is a weird one. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is notoriously like gobbledygook story. Like, what is that? What does any of that even mean? It's all kind of gibberish jargon stuff. Then you have Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Then you have Metaphor ReFantazio, which I hear is also kind of a head scratcher with its plot. And then we have Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 and Silent Hill 2. I mean, the thing with Silent Hill 2 is that its narrative is largely unchanged from what it was, when it came out on PlayStation 1. So I don't know how much better Senua's Saga is, but at least that's new and original. So I don't know. I'm going to say Senua's Saga wins. I'm going to lock that one in. Maybe Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. But I don't know. I think it's between Senua's Saga and Silent Hill 2. But I think Senua's Saga has the advantage because Silent Hill 2's narrative is the same narrative as before. So I don't know. That game has already been recognized for that. Okay, best game direction. We're down to our last two categories here. So here we have Astrobot, we have Balatro, we have Black Myth Wukong, we have Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we have Metaphor ReFantazio. So this one's tough. I would love to see Astrobot win, but I just feel like the competition is too tough. I mean, it stands out from the rest of these because it is not serious like all the other games here are, except for maybe Balatro, which is a very different kind of game and an indie game. It's cool to see an indie game nominated here. Massive respect and props for it. If it wins, awesome for them. How huge would that be for them? But I don't think they're going to win here. I think it's going to go to Metaphor ReFantazio. Maybe I don't think it goes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I know people really love that game, like player-wise, but I just don't think they win that. If it goes to Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't want it to. I don't think the DLC should be here. If it goes to Black Myth Wukong, that's probably pretty cool too. Like I said, I want Astrobot to win, but I think it's going to be Metaphor. Okay, Game of the Year. Pretty much the same list that I just read. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I could see a surprise upset with Balatro. It's happened before where an indie game has won Game of the Year. I believe it was the year that, oh gosh darn it, the guy who made A Way Out and Brothers, he made that It Takes Two game. And that game won. And not exactly indie because it is funded by EA, but EA doesn't actually own the game. But anyways, I want to see Astrobot win so bad. I think that would just be like a huge celebration for that kind of game and inspire people to make more games like Astrobot, games that are for fun, just pure fun. But I think it's more likely that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth wins, or even more likely that Metaphor ReFantazio wins. So I'm going to lock in Metaphor ReFantazio as my pick for the most likely to win Game of the Year. But secretly, I'm really, really rooting for Astrobot. Anyways, one thing I wanted to point out before I wrap this episode up is that I don't think Nintendo is going to win a single game award this year. First of all, they only had like 2 or 3 games nominated. But yeah, I just don't think they put out anything this year worthy of taking down any of the competition. So just interesting to point out, obviously Nintendo Switch in this kind of twilight as we're transitioning over into this new console, maybe eventually someday, one day. But yeah, I think for maybe the first time, Nintendo wins 0 awards at the Game Awards. But next year, they're going to go from 0 to hero, I bet. Unless Grand Theft Auto 6 launches next year, then that game is just winning absolutely everything. End transmission.